Hello and welcome. I am Scarperlock, and this is City of Villains on the Rebirth server. We are with our mastermind, level 37 Nightmare Lass, who has over 4.5 million XP and just under a million needed to get to level 38 and our final secondary power. We have 144 million infamy, and we are on a story arc for Hardcase. He says the Freak Show had Johnny Sonata remix which drew the whalers. Damn, we just might be able to use this to our advantage. And then he says those Sonic Freak Show who were playing the Johnny Sonata Techno remix, which attracted the whalers, gave me an idea. If we could get hold of some of the Sonic tech, we could plant a device on another island and draw the whalers away from St. Marshall. I know the name of a techie who's working for the Freak Show leaders on St. Marshall developing their Sonic tech. Get Trey Belclef from the Freak Show to build you a Sonic device. My guess is we're going to go capture him. And so we're going to go on our way to the next mission door. So I hope you guys are enjoying this playthrough. I'm in a much better mood tonight because I didn't play any Planet Zoo to get frustrated today. I decided to actually take a look through my Steam library and see what games I have that I might want to start playing again or start playing that I've never played. One that I've actually purchased and never played was Endless Legend. I played that a little bit, don't know about that. We'll see. I was toying with maybe starting to play XCOM again. I don't know whether I'd want to record and post videos from either of those games. XCOM I played a lot. I recall getting to the end of it. I have this weird memory. I don't remember the details because it's been 4 or 5 years since I played it. Maybe longer. It came out in 2012, so it's been about 8 years since it was out. It came out. I have this weird feeling that I got to the end and I couldn't do the final couple missions, and either I decided to replay it from scratch, or maybe I set the difficulty lower. If you can do that in that game, I'm not really sure. I know there are a couple of missions that are just super wicked hard, and I had a lot of trouble with them. Most of the missions I was able to do fairly well. It's like a tactical turn-based game. It's very cool, and my recollection was the graphics were very good at the time, although I haven't played it in a while, so I don't know how it holds up. I suspect the graphics are at least as good as this game, which would be more than sufficient for me to play. Whether I would want to post videos, I'm not sure. And let me know if it's something you'd want to see. I might, XCOM. I feel like I know enough about that game that I could, stream it without thinking there's going to be a lot of unexpected bugs and that kind of thing. I don't recall experiencing any game-breaking bugs in XCOM. There's actually an XCOM 2 out. This is what made me think of it. XCOM 2, even that's fairly old. It came out 3 or 4 years ago. I never played that one. I always wanted to because I liked the first one so much. So, maybe I could do XCOM and then XCOM 2. And while I'm talking, I got sloppy and this Freak Show over here rezzed. So we're going to have to kill him, but we can let him go. It doesn't really matter. These guys aren't any real challenge for our minions. Endless Legend, I know a lot less about. I've only played it for, according to Steam, about 35 or 40 minutes. I'm still in the tutorial. It seems extremely complicated. There are lots of sort of different types of units, and each unit has multiple attributes, and then you have to, manage your resources and that sort of thing. Oh, this guy's coming back. Let's go attack him. And so I didn't even hit on the teleport. That actually worked out really well because that other guy came back and we attacked him first. So yeah, Endless Legend. I've played other games. Crusader Kings 3 is out. I played a lot of Crusader Kings 2. CK3 is newer. Just came out recently. I've been trying to get a friend of mine to play that co-op with me. I feel like that's a lot. Games like Europa Universalis and Stellaris and games like that are a lot more fun playing it with somebody else. I don't necessarily want to play against another player, but I do think it's sort of fun to maybe up the AI difficulty and then team up with another player and see if you guys can, beat it together, which I think, can be a lot of fun. But so far, he hasn't really wanted to do that. He's playing other games. This is a guy I played D&D with, and he's really more interested in role-playing games than CK2 or 3. Um, I would never try to do CK2 just because I feel like there are other people who know so much more about it than I do, and they have many hours of gameplay. CK3 is a newer game, and they can't really know that much more about it than I do because it just came out. So I could potentially do something like that. Not sure I want to stream a game like Crusader Kings. However, they can be very long, many hours of play to get um, a single playthrough done. And so, I mean, like I feel like at least as many hours as it would take to get to level 50 with a single character in City of Heroes. I'm not sure if I want to do that much. I've never actually played an entire game of EU4 through to the end, I don't think, and I've only ever played one game of Crusader Kings 2 through to the end, and like I got really frustrated and kind of screwed it all up at the end because I was just annoyed at the way things work. The inheritance rules are extremely complicated, and even when I looked them up and thought I knew how they worked and tried to set up my inheritance the way I wanted to, I would always end up getting screwed and having some of the territories going to some cousin somewhere who I didn't want to get it, that sort of thing. So I think I tried too hard to make what I want to happen rather than just kind of go with whatever happens. And one of the things that I struggle with in The Sims 4 and 3 and 2 as well is rather than just letting my Sims, do what they want, I always am trying to like make them super efficient and have them do everything I want exactly the way I want it so that they can skill up and make money. And yeah, they do skill up and make money, but I think it's a lot more relaxing to just kind of let the Sims do whatever they want. And, you direct them a little bit, but then kind of leave them to their own devices. Um, I wouldn't suggest doing a Sims playthrough. I think I always give up on those. The primary way I play Sims 4, or 3, 2, ever since I learned about it in Sims 2, is called the Legacy, which is just a type of gameplay that the players introduce. A legacy is where you buy the largest, most expensive empty property. You start with very little money because you bought this large empty property, and then all you have enough money for is to put down like a single wall, a toilet, a sink, maybe a refrigerator, and a bed. And then your sim starts all by itself as a young adult. And the idea is to have 10 generations of Sims live on this property and live out their lives. And eventually, you can get a really nice mansion and, build cool things. But it takes several generations and a lot of patience. And actually, one of the things that often happens to me is it's actually so easy to make money in especially Sims 3 and 4 that by the time I'm on the second or third generation, the first Sim and his wife or her husband is just dying, of old age, and the third generation is just becoming adults. And at that point, usually I have so much money that I have a really nice house, and then I'm like, well, where do I go from here? Like, yeah, I could make it bigger and better, but it's already really nice, and the Sims are kind of done. And so I never finished them. I don't think I've ever gotten past third generation of a legacy. Um, and there are other ways, to play that are shorter. You could just play, one family until the founding sim dies or whatever. Um, you can make up your own goals. You could try to get an achievement, that kind of thing. But, um, but yeah, I feel like there are a number of issues with Sims 4. I don't like it as well as I liked Sims 3. I mean, the graphics are better, but I think Sims 2 the best. Sims 3, I like that they had an open world, and I really was sort of disappointed that they got rid of the open world and went back to not having the open world with Sims 4, and I don't think they ever changed that. Probably can't. It's a basic design decision. And then there were a number of other design decisions that I didn't like so much. Can't remember whether it was Sims 3 or 4. One of them, they didn't have toddlers, and so your Sims would have a baby, and the baby would immediately age up to a child, like a 10-year-old, rather than a toddler. And they were surprised that people who played The Sims didn't like that. Like, are you kidding me? Toddlers are some of the most aggravating, but at the same time hilariously funny Sims in the entire game. You can teach have your Sims teach the toddlers to walk and talk and use the toilet and things like that. I mean, and read, and it's super cute. The animations were adorable in Sims 2 of how they did that, especially teaching them to talk and walk. Really fun. And so, um, yeah, they took that out of Sims 3. I think they put it in Sims 4. I think they retrofitted it into Sims 3 as well. I believe. I might be getting the numbers wrong. Um, but there's a lot of really cool stuff in Sims 4. They've added a whole bunch of additions to it in the expansions. But again, it's one of these games where if you want to get everything, you're going to have to spend hundreds of bucks. I have some stuff. I've got seasons and some of the other things that existed the last time I played it. But again, I'm not sure it's something that I would want to stream, and I'm so frustrated with a lot of the things that Electronic Arts does with The Sims that my concern is that there'd be a lot of negativity in a stream like that, in a playthrough like that, just because I'd be grumbling about all the things I don't like that Electronic Arts did to The Sims. Um, so yeah, I don't know if anybody has some really cool suggestions. I'm open to them. Somebody mentioned Pathfinder Kingmaker, I guess. Absolutely not. First of all, a really good friend of mine has it and has been struggling to get it to work on his Windows 10 machine, and he has to use his work laptop because the work laptop I guess has an integrated graphics card, and that's kind of able to do Pathfinder, whereas the I guess the game wasn't designed for modern graphics cards. And while I'm talking, we got caught with this guy, so let's do Hell on Earth. And let's get our stuff going here. And I was too far from him when I triggered this anguishing cry, wasn't I? And this guy's purple, +2 boss. So yeah, anyway, I guess it said it doesn't work with the modern drivers or the modern video cards. And he was really frustrated with it. I have no desire to try to fight with it. I mean, it might work for me, but I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on a game only to find out that it doesn't even work with my graphics card, which is newer than his. So I'm not going to try that. So there's no on that one. Generally not a huge fan of party-based role-playing games, especially if it's a large party. Sometimes they can be good. I mean, I do like some of the old BioWare stuff, like Mass Effect, which is a small group, and Jade Empire, which is a pair, you and an NPC, and Knights of the Old Republic. So, I mean, I think some of it depends on what the AI is like, and whether it's turn-based and that sort of thing. I tried Pillars of Eternity, couldn't get into that game, didn't like it at all. I've played Divinity Original Sin and Divinity 2. I don't really feel like replaying them. They were great games and I loved them, but I enjoyed playing them co-op with a friend of mine, and I don't really feel like replaying them solo. So, I don't know. There are a lot of possible games, and just not sure which one that I want to do. Let's go to Hardcase, and I'll bring you back when we're there. Alright, we are back with Hardcase. And he says, this will be perfect. I just need to pick a good target. I have something in mind. So what does the clue say? And I'm actually going to close this and move up because we have these stupid zombies. There's a zone event going on, and we have these stupid zombies that spawn whenever there's a player near the ground. So he says, it all started when Hardcase contacted us about the Whalers, as we know. Hardcase saw this as an opportunity to draw the Whalers away from St. Marshall. He sent us to get Trey Belclef, one of the Freak Show's techies. Getting to Trey, you got him to build a sonic transmitter capable of attracting the Whalers. So I guess after we beat him up, he did what I asked him to do. Do we have Hardcase's phone number now? We do, so I don't have to go down. The main reason I'm calling him from right next to him is I don't want to go down there and spawn another zombie that I have to fight. Because I'm trying to talk to my contact, not have combat right now. Okay, so he says, So we found the Whalers, were attracted to the techno remix of Johnny Sonata's music, and managed to get a Freak Show Sonic Techie to make a heavy-duty sonic transmitter. Now all we have to do is plant it somewhere off of St. Marshall. I know. Let's put it in Paragon City. Let those jerks deal with the Whalers when they come after it. They'll probably find the device after a while, but it'll give St. Marshall a break from the Whalers for a while at least. So let's go plant the transmitter in Paragon City. So now we have to go to Nerva Archipelago, and once we're at the mission door, I will bring you guys back. See you in a bit. Alright folks, here we are at the mission door. Oh, caught on a railing here. And we're going to go right on through. I assume this will be an outdoor mission. No, it's a sewer. Alright. Sewers below Paragon City, and let's summon our buddies. And off we go to buffing them. And then they follow me, and we are going to look for enemies. And there's some longbow here. Alright. Get them. So now the question is, why are the longbow guarding the sewers? Like, did they know I'm coming? Normally you don't find longbow in the sewers in Paragon City. When? In the game City of Heroes, on the hero side, when do they ever have longbow in the sewers? I don't think I've ever seen it on the hero side. Little bit of plot inconsistency, I guess, or continuity inconsistency. Okay, there's some guys right there, so we'll hit them first. So here's an interesting one, and it sort of pertains to what we're doing, and what we've always been doing here in City of Heroes, and what the game City of Heroes was kind of designed for us to do. And that is, on the D&D Beyond forum, for a while, there was a thread. It's now been locked for reasons passing understanding, because there was nothing going on wrong in that thread. Somebody asked, what's a murder hobo? So, I wonder if people listening know what a murder hobo is. So, in Dungeons & Dragons, when the game first came out, it was about dungeons and monsters. And typically the way you played the game was that you started at the dungeon. You know, there was, some theoretical town with some arbitrary name near the dungeon that presumably, the DM would say you guys were all in the tavern and you met and you heard about this dungeon outside of town that's been threatening the people, and you would role play for 10 minutes saying, okay, we're going to go form a party and go to the dungeon, and then you would all get together and go in the dungeon. And 99% of the gameplay was played exploring the dungeon, and when you were in the dungeon, you were going from room to room. Your goal was to uncover the whole map, to find everything there was to find in the dungeon, to kill everything in every room that moved, and take all the treasure there was. Back in the day, we called this, originally we just called this playing D&D, and that's how nearly everybody played D&D in the late 70s and early 80s. Later, when we started playing other games like Champions, where you weren't just crawling through maps, killing everything, but you were more playing out storylines, right? Where there'd be like a fight on a city street by a master villain who's threatening to take over the world, and he, a bank robber, that kind of thing. And there was more story to it, and there was more role play to it. We started calling the D&D mode of play hack and loot, right? You would hack down whatever was moving and take its loot, take its treasure. And even that was a little bit of a derisive term, right? I remember, in fact, being introduced to it by reading Adventurers Club magazine, where they talked about making up adventures and scenarios for Champions, and how many players of Champions are, come from fantasy role-playing games, which, as they called them, are of the hack and loot variety, and there really isn't any treasure to be found in. Is this an ambush coming? Looks like it. We can ignore that; they're not that tough. Um, that the whole idea of D&D is basically, as they called it, hack and loot, killing things and taking their treasure. But you really shouldn't be doing that, as they said, in a superhero game. And to some degree, Statesman and the designers agreed with that. And originally, there was no salvage, and there wasn't really any loot in City of Heroes. The enhancements, really don't count because you can just, buy enhancements. The enhancements are basically just a way to gain influence so that you can buy enhancements. And to some degree, there really isn't any loot in, or wasn't before, they added the auction house. There really isn't any loot in City of Heroes. And there certainly wasn't any at all in Champions. You can't pick up somebody else's equipment and use it. The game just doesn't work that way. You have to pay points for everything. And if you didn't pay the points, you might be able to use the guys. You might be able to pick up this minigun's gun and use it, like, just during this fight for a few combat phases. If you're going to keep that gun and use it tomorrow, or the next day, or the next session, you got to pay the points for that gun. And if you're going to pay the points for the gun, you don't need to find it somewhere. You could just buy it. Now, of course, the GM might make you justify in roleplay why you bought it, but in terms of the game mechanics, there is no need to get items from someone else. You can just pay the points and have the item. And fights in Champions generally don't lead to the death, and so hack and loot is something perhaps that, and there's a glowy, so hack and loot is something that perhaps was done, here's an ambush, in D&D, but it wasn't done in Champions. And so it was a bit of a derisive term where the authors, was Aaron Alston or Dennis Maloney or one of those, the authors of the Champions stuff and Adventurers Club were sort of saying, poo-pooing D&D as being a hack and loot type game. Now we need to defeat the reinforcements. There we go. But now there's even why are we defeating the whalers? We're trying to get them here. So now there's even a more derisive term for hack and loot. They call it being a murder hobo. And that's the end of the story arc. That's like a 3-mission story arc. And so, what's a murder hobo? Well, why do they call it a murder hobo? Well, murdering is you're killing everything in the dungeon. And hobo because, classically, because all you're doing is playing the time in the dungeon. And you're not really playing your time. You don't do a lot of, you tell the DM what you want to do in your downtime, but you don't do a lot of, in classic D&D, a lot of playing out of the downtime. Because of that, you don't really, your character, even though your character probably in his background or in theory has a house or an apartment or some room in an inn, you're generally playing in the dungeon where you don't have a place to live. And so you're kind of a hobo in the dungeon in the sense that you're homeless. In the dungeon, you have no home. The monsters have their homes in the dungeon, but you really don't. And you might be going down multiple levels, and you might be in the dungeon for weeks of gameplay and many days of in-game time, as well as weeks and weeks, maybe months, maybe years of real-life time as you're playing through the dungeon, never really having a home, always just barricading the door of some former monster lair to sleep for the night so you can get your spells back. So you're essentially homeless through most of the role play, and you're killing things. And so the term became murder hobo, and of course is used derisively to give a negative connotation to people who just, their gameplay is just going through the dungeon, cleaning it out, and taking the treasure. But that's actually kind of what you're doing in City of Heroes, right? We went through that sewer, we killed off or defeated every single longbow in there, everything that moved, everything I could tab target to, got attacked and destroyed, and we clicked on a glowy, and we got some, if you want to call it that, loot. We hacked and looted, right? I mean, that's literally what we did. And so lots of online games are basically just hack and loot. They have some thinly veiled story, a little paragraph of why you're going into the dungeon or the mission, but 99% of the gameplay isn't about the clues or the reason you're going in. It's just target the next spawn and beat it up. So that's what murder hoboing means. And I just thought we would maybe talk about that a little bit since that subject did come up on the D&D forum. Alright, so we got an enhancement, and let's see, does he have another story arc for us? He says, I consider St. Marshall my home, and the people who work in St. Marshall my people. Well, I just got word that some of my people have gone missing. Some council goons came charging in and loaded up a bunch of locals into trucks. I heard they do experiments on the people they kidnap, and that just ain't cool. This ain't your regular thing, but I want you to rescue them. Alright, so how are we doing on time here? 25 minutes? Alright, well, we can probably do this one. Let's do a straight shot to the mission door. So yeah, the D&D Beyond forums, this thread came about murder hoboing, and of course there was a discussion, is being a murder hobo really a bad thing, like you're killing all these monsters? Somebody said indiscriminately, another person said, well, it's not indiscriminate. In old school D&D, all the monsters in the dungeon were evil, and your character was either good or neutral. And so you were going around killing evil things, like goblins. That's not bad. If you don't kill the goblins, they're going to come into the nearby settlement and kill humans, or elves, or dwarves. So, some people were arguing there's nothing wrong with going through a goblin lair and killing everything in there because they're evil. And then other people questioned whether all goblins are evil. And of course, modern D&D, meaning like the last 6, 8, 10 months, not only are goblins playable characters, that's been true for a couple of years, but there are a lot of people who question sort of assigning an alignment to an entire species or race. I think this is hilarious because nobody questions assigning an alignment to all succubi or all Balor demons. Nobody questions assigning an alignment to all Slodai, right? But if it's elves, we question assigning alignment to them, or if it's drow, And so, I don't know. But the thread became a discussion about kind of the virtues of murder hoboing and whether it was, kind of an inherently bad thing to do because you're just killing everything, or whether what you were killing was evil, and the merits and demerits of alignment and things like that. And the thread got locked by a moderator who insisted it was going off topic, which I think is, kind of ridiculous. It is a really interesting thread until they decided to lock it. It seems like on the D&D Beyond forum lately, there's one particular moderator who just has a hair trigger. If the topic goes slightly off the original post, he'll say, this thread is off topic, come back to topic. And if it goes off topic again, he's like, that's it, I'm locking this thread. And he's managed to stifle some really interesting discussions and really turn the forum into something. Look at all these guys. What is going on? Oh, there's kidnappers over there. All right. So let's back up. Yeah, he's turned the forums from something really interesting and engaging and fun to read into something that's, really kind of boring because, we did a poll by accident. Look at that. Something that's really kind of boring because any really interesting discussion is going to go a little bit off topic. People are going to bring tangential things into the discussion. They're going to veer off into interesting subtopics, and that's what makes forums enjoyable to read. And so if you're going to ban that kind of discussion, like actual conversation, then why am I reading the forum? It's kind of a shame because they used to have very nice, interesting debates, and generally pretty courteous, not generally very flamey. By the way, we have 5 kidnapped victims to rescue. Here's the first one. Hopefully we're not leading them out. Thankfully not. Yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of forums is to have debates and discussion. And if you're going to say that you have to just stick exactly to the original post and no more, then you may as well not have threads, right? You may as well just have little one reply boxes, and as soon as a single reply is made to the original post, you shut the thread down. There's no thread, right? Because any normal forum, discussions veer off. I mean, look at even the gameplay here. And I'm going way off topic for this, but even when I'm focusing on the actual mission we're doing, I still am going to veer off topic a little bit as things come up. And that's just kind of the normal way discussion happens. And it's sort of frustrating that they are trying to stifle, or at least some of the mods there seem like they're trying to stifle regular normal conversation among their user base. So I've actually been posting a lot less there, and I don't read it as much as I used to because it's not as interesting. All the interesting stuff is being threadlocked as quote unquote being off topic. So, and the really fun thing was, so on the Murder Hobo thread, this one moderator who's the one that does it the most and is really, I think, way overstepping his bounds. We were talking about the different types of players, right? Murder Hobo is one player type, play style. And we were contrasting it with the other play styles. And he came into the thread and said, this is not a thread about play styles, it's about Murder Hobo's stay on topic. Then somebody else asked, completely off topic, you've told me what a Murder Hobo is, what's an edgelord? Now that is absolutely not on topic for the thread. An edgelord is an internet term that has nothing to do with D&D or D&D playstyles. And the moderator, who had told us all to stay on topic or else, came onto the thread again and explained what an edgelord is. Right, somebody who's trying to be edgy for the sake of edginess. Now, it was a pretty short definition, but if you're going to complain to people for going off topic, you can't then come onto the thread and go off topic yourself. And I had a really serious urge to quote his comment and say, is this on topic for the thread? But I know for a fact that he would have said that my quoting of him was going off topic. So I didn't bother. There's actually a policy, and there's one like this on many forums. There's actually a policy on the D&D Beyond forum that says if you post something, you are not allowed to post anything critical of the moderators. You can't discuss forum moderation on the forum, either in a thread or by making your own thread about forum moderation. To do so earns you a temporary ban. So I knew that would be the rule. I didn't even have to look it up. I've looked it up since out of curiosity, but I know that forums are like that. So in a thread where a moderator does something, if you go into that thread and complain about the moderation in the thread, that's off topic for the thread, and you can get into trouble. And then if you make a post on the feedback forum, which they have a forum for feedback, saying, hey, my feedback is your moderators are doing a bad job of moderating, that's off topic for the forum, and you get in trouble for that too. So this, of course, what this means when they have a policy like that is that their D&D Beyond feedback forum section notwithstanding, they don't actually want any feedback on their website. Because if they did, they wouldn't say you're not allowed to give us comments about forum moderation, because that it would be a form of feedback. A lot of sites do this. They're not the only one. The reason they do this, ostensibly, is because if they allow you to discuss forum moderation, then anytime somebody gets banned, anytime some thread gets locked, there's going to be another thread about the locking of the thread or the banning of the person, and it can turn into a really nasty moderators versus the rest of the forum situation. And I do respect the fact that they don't want that to happen, but it's also the case that their policy makes it very clear that they don't really value their users' opinion of what kind of a job the moderators are doing. In other words, they don't care if their moderators are doing a bad job or not. Just shut up and give us your money, right? Because it's a website you subscribe to. Now, you don't have to subscribe to posts to the forums, but it is a website they're trying to get money from us, right? It's not a free website. It's a business, and they're trying to get us to use the D&D Beyond subscription services and use the D&D Beyond, purchase books, from D&D Beyond rather than in on paper, or rather than from Fantasy Grounds or Roll20. And at this point, I am frustrated enough with their moderation and a whole bunch of other problems with their website that if we weren't already pretty severely committed to both Foundry, Virtual Tabletop, which doesn't have any way to purchase books, and D&D Beyond, if my players hadn't already purchased all the books in D&D Beyond and I didn't want to have to make them purchase them again, I'd move to Roll20. I probably wouldn't use Fantasy Grounds because I don't like Fantasy Grounds. And I know Roll20 has its problems, but just for the principle of the thing, I don't like giving Fandom, which are the guys that own D&D Beyond, money anymore. And I really don't like that I'm going to have to keep doing it. I object to giving money to people who are doing a bad job. That's another great example of that is Planet Zoo is such a buggy mess that even though I had originally had Jurassic World Evolution on my wish list on Steam and Planet Coaster, both of those are made by Frontier, which is the company that made Planet Zoo, and we're going to take out this boss, even though the mission's complete. I'm not buying anything more from Frontier. I just am not. I don't think they deserve my money after what a bad job they did on the bugs in Planet Zoo. So, so this is what you want to do. You want to get close and then fire off that Anguishing Cry so that it lowers his resistance. That should be super helpful against the behemoths of the Circle of Thorns as well. Alright folks, we're done with this mission. We've got a clue. Nictus experimentation. So they were doing Nictus experiments with these people. Let's head outside and we can call our contact. And then I think we'll stop for this episode. Thanks for doing this, Nightmare Lass. I know it's not your regular thing, but we've got to protect our own, right? Alright, well, we'll do this next mission next time. I'm not sure if this guy's going to give us another story arc. Some of these folks give you more than one, especially when they're really short. Sometimes that happens. But we're going to stop for now. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Villains.